Hey class, welcome to the last part and the final part of interacting and getting to know what oral narratives are. We've looked at various examples until this far, and I hope that you've learned and you're understanding each and every example of oral narratives and the types we've given. So right away, I will look at the importance of oral narratives. So we're going to talk about the importance of oral narratives, how they're important in life, and why we should learn about them. So one importance is preservation of cultural heritage. So oral narratives are a mean of preserving culture, tradition, values, and histories. In rapidly changing world, they serve as a link to the past and help communities maintain their cultural identity and their heritage. So one importance here that we're looking at is that they help in preserving cultures. For example, when you talk about the legendary narratives or the epics or any narrative you talk about, any type you talk about, the main idea behind this type is to help preserve the culture, help preserve the norm that people have always known, and pass the different culture of different communities from one generation to another. So oral narratives are essential for preservation of the culture, and it serves as a link. This oral narrative serves as a link to the past and the present, and they help communities maintain their culture and identity and their heritage too. So you don't want to lose your culture, you don't want to forget about your culture or the practices you guys used to do. So what do? Oral narratives now will help preserve this culture, because you're passing the idea to this people, you're passing information or norms and customs of a certain community to generations, generation after generation. So this is one main importance of oral narratives. Next importance is transmission of knowledge. Many indigenous cultures and communities use oral narratives to pass down practical knowledge such as traditional farming techniques, medical practices, and survival skills. This knowledge can be vital for sustainable living and environmental stewardship. So when you're passing down knowledge, when you're telling someone about an epic or a legendary story or a myth, you're trying to pass a certain knowledge or a certain belief or a certain custom about a community that people base their beliefs on, or that people tend to think is the right way to live or the right way to follow. Now, this is one importance of learning and understanding what oral narratives are. They are techniques. They use techniques such as medical practices. So here, for example, you want to pass, for example, the oral traditional narratives. These oral traditional narratives or law, they were called the laws or oral traditional narratives. They pass down knowledge. They don't want the knowledge of the community to just go or just disappear, but instead they want to pass down certain knowledge or certain techniques from one generation to another. For example, their farming techniques. Maybe they used to farm or plant seeds in a certain way or a certain order. They used to, when someone is sick, there's a way they got the medicine or the herbal medicines from the forest and harvest them. So this is what you want to pass down from one generation to another generation. So they're very important in storing some knowledge or passing some knowledge from the past down to the generation that is now in place. So they have farming techniques, medicine practices, survival skills, and this knowledge are vital for sustainable living and environmental stewardship. We looked at, there are very many importance of studying oral narratives. So here's another one: community bonding. Sharing oral narratives fosters a sense of community and belonging. It brings people together, strengthens social bonds, and help maintain a sense of solidarity within communities. Now, what do I mean by this? When you're learning about oral narratives, or when you're being told about oral narratives, the main idea of sharing is to create the bond, to bring the bond between two people. So they act as a strengthening, they strengthen the bonds between people. They help maintain a sense of solidarity within communities, as they help us understand or they give us the identity. You identify with a certain culture or identify with a certain group of people. So this is one importance of oral narratives. They maintain a sense of solidarity. Now, another importance is cultural diversity and inclusivity. In a globalized world, oral narrative they help preserve and celebrate cultural diversity. They highlight the richness of different cultures and provide a platform for voices that might otherwise be marginalized or forgotten. So cultural diversity and inclusivity. Now, these oral narratives highlight the richness of a culture. So, for example, your culture is full of norms, full of some old practices. Now, it highlights this richness of different cultures and provides a platform where you can voice it out, and otherwise you can also choose to voice out your cultures, voice out your practices, teach the world, spread your culture out there. So it provides a diverse space where you are free to share, free to talk, and it also provides an inclusive space where you can share your culture or your norms or your practices with the world and other people who are ready to listen. So one importance is that it provides cultural diversity and inclusivity. The next importance is the intergenerational connection. We've often talked about oral narrative being passed from one generation to another. So what is the main idea? You don't want to lose your identity as a certain culture or a certain community. You don't want it to go in a waste of people to forget about it. So the best way is to pass this knowledge to the people, talk to the people about this, your culture, your practices, and your beliefs. So this way you're trying to integrate the connection or bring the connection between different generations. Now, oral narratives facilitate intergenerational communication and understanding. Elders often pass down stories and wisdom to younger generations, helping to bridge the generation gap and promote respect for tradition. So you'll find most of the time that these oral narratives are passed down from one community to another through elders, and these elders might be your great-grandparents, your elder relatives, people who have lived there for long before you. So they pass down these stories and wisdom to the young people or the young generation, and by passing this, they're helping to bridge the generational gap, the gap that is there between the old generation and the new generation or the current generation. In this way, it's able to promote respect and for the tradition and promote like identity, to promote young people to know themselves and know their culture and understand themselves very well. Another importance is education and awareness. Oral narratives can be a powerful tool for educating and raising awareness. They can convey important messages about issues like environmental conservation, social justice, and human rights in a way that resonates with the audiences on a personal and emotional level. Now, we talked about education and awareness. For example, when you're looking at the historical narratives, we looked at the historical narratives before. So this will educate you on the past history, the formation of or occurrences of certain events, the periods the events took place, how they took place, when they took place, who were included in these events, how did the events happen. So it's creating education, one, and it's also creating awareness. You're being educated and you're being aware, you're aware of the past too. So these oral narratives are very important as they're a source of education and awareness to the youth. For example, as a young generation now, when you're told about some fairy tales or folk tales, or look at the legendary narratives or the mythical narratives, these are stories that were told in the past and are being told to the present generation. So the main idea is to educate and create awareness so that the young generation can understand their culture, know where they came from, and understand themselves better and the beliefs of the community. Another importance is storytelling and entertainment. Storytelling and entertainment. Look at the examples of anecdotes and jokes. Their purpose is to entertain, and also, for example, the legendary stories or the epics, they're told in a storytelling form. So, give an example. Another example is the personal narratives. You're telling your story to the people. It's a personal narrative, but you're telling it to the people. So this way they foster storytelling and entertainment. So oral narratives remain the source of entertainment and enjoyment. Storytelling events, spoken word performances, and traditional storytelling sessions continue to captivate and engage audiences. People pay to go listen to people speak orally or tell these stories orally, and I would gladly do the same, of course, because I want to listen to my history. I want to know what happened. So you'll find most people pay for these services. They go to theaters, people perform there. So there are spoken word performances and traditional storytelling sessions. People would pay for this, and some knowledges would also be offered free. So the main importance behind this is just for entertaining people and to offer the in a storytelling way too. Another importance is historical highlights or historical insights. Historical insights. Now, oral narratives often contain valuable historical insights and perspectives that may not be found in written records. They provide alternative viewpoints and personal experiences that contribute to the more comprehensive understanding of history. What we write is sometimes very different from what we talk. You find that the old songs or the old narratives are full of educational stuff. They're full of history, and this history might not be gotten from the written sources. They're only gotten from these oral narratives. So they are great insights for historical facts and historical perspectives. So this is one importance, because they highlight these historical insights during their storytelling sessions. And look at another one here is crisis communication. Crisis communication. In times of crisis or disaster, oral narratives can be used to convey critical information, instructions, and satisfy measures to communities, particularly in areas with limited access to written sources. When we talk about crises, for example, let's talk about there's an outbreak of a disease or a certain disease that can't be treated with the normal hospital medicines we know. Through oral narratives of the stories that have been told, the historical events, things that have happened in the past, you will get that there are valuable sources maybe of some medical practices or the medical ways in which they used to treat people in the past. And these are valuable information that will be needed during these times of crisis. So they help during these times, and I hope you understand that. So for example, I gave an example. You're being told about some history of a community and how they used to live during the disease time, during when they were in the hunger process. So all this information as to why they survived and how they survived, how they were able to cater and come up with a solution is very critical information, because they provide instructions. Let's look at, for example, the medical instructions. You want to use the herbal way to treat some diseases, so you will employ these methods of crisis communication through the oral narratives. Another insight which is very important is the resilience and adaptation. So oral narratives have demonstrated resilience over centuries, adapting to changing circumstances and technologies, because they continue to evolve, incorporate new themes and context while preserving core cultural elements. So there's the resilience and adaptation. So what do I mean by this? So oral narratives have demonstrated resilience over centuries, adapting to changing circumstances and technologies. So they've been the coming of the phones, the laptops, the computers and everything. But one thing you realize that they adapt to these changes. Still, even in your computer, there are still other historical events from the past that are recorded. There are oral narratives that are being still recorded. So they still adapt to the changes. They don't change. They still either remain the same and they adapt to the new technology. Another importance of the oral narratives in general is the artistic expression. So you'll find that many artists perform and draw inspirations from oral narratives to create music, literature, theater, and visual arts. So these narratives serve as a wellspring of creativity and artistic exploration. So you find that most artists will use the events from the past or ideas from the past in the creation of music or an art or theater or visual arts or literature to convey their message. So they make use of these resources. Another one is the digital storytelling platform, which oral narratives are finding new forms of expressions through podcasts, through audio recordings. So they're adapting to the technology still. And in conclusion, or in summary, oral narratives remain the vital part of the culture because they educate and they provide the bridge or the gap between the past and the present, right? So they foster community cohesion. They offer valuable insights and diverse dynamic nature of human experience. So that's why in life we still need oral narratives. We've looked at their various importance, and they form a vital part in bridging the gap between the past and the present. Thank you so much for attending the lesson.